Jester. He is a difficult one to scale as he was the only one we didn't get to see use his final form, as he was sent back to the afterlife before it was unleashed. Despite that, however, he has some incredibly impressive feats. Straight off the bat, he was able to hold back Asta's gigantic big black sword called the Black Divider. He uses his barrier magic, which was so huge it covered the entire floating fortress. This is way bigger than the Black Divider that defeated Zagrid instantly, and a short time later, Asta used the same attack to destroy a Candelo and every Spade Magic Knight in it, giving us clear-cut evidence Jester is scaling incredibly high even in his base form. However, Jester, like all the other Wizard Kings, were being buffed by the Imperial Sword more than anyone. This is why Jester could constantly regenerate his barriers against Asta's anti-magic, as he had an endless pool of mana being fed to him. He even knocked Asta's Black Divider and the entire Black Bull's base off course with a single kick. Scaling to the Black Divider of Asta isn't even a small feat, as we know a weaker version of Black Asta alone could defeat Ladros, whom consumed all of Salamander's spirit. From the databook, we know that one swing from Salamander's talon can dry up an entire ocean, scaling to 239 petatons of TNT in attack potency. But Black Divider should be able to absorb all magic spells, right? But Jester was regenerating it so fast that it wasn't capable of doing so, which led to the gang being separated. Furthermore, we see how he can use his barriers to also cut things, hypothetically meaning he could even dismember people if he can find an opening to do so. For his final matchup, he faced a formidable quartet of Yuno, Yami, Fulgelion, and Nozel. However, we have to remember that despite all four of these guys being Wizard King level knights on paper, the captains had been severely weakened due to having their magic drained. But that doesn't stop me from telling you that a captain alone was stated to scale up to 100 magic knights, meaning technically speaking, Jester was facing the might of up to 400 magic knights at once. Going further, we see that his reaction time was insanely fast, as he responded to being cornered by analyzing the situation and casting a spell within a nanosecond. It was as if time stopped for him. It is hard to estimate exactly how fast Yuno is in the movie, but what we can say for certain is that he was at the very least several times faster than Julius. If you can argue that, wait a second ABD, Julius, if he had infinite mana, wouldn't he be able to defeat Patry and others? Well, that's not exactly how time magic works either. Remember, it's from Astaroth, and time magic is stored when it's stolen from others. So he used all of his time magic against Patry to stop that country level threat that he utilized to kill everyone. It doesn't matter if Julius had unlimited mana or not. Therefore, the fact that Julius could not even catch Patry puts him well below Yuno in terms of speed, since he was able to fight a fully transformed Dark Elf Patry. Yuno being able to dodge attacks that are confirmed by Asta to be many times faster than normal light magic, and him being able to keep up with it solidifies the fact that Yuno is simply faster than Julius. At this point, Yuno would be going multiple times faster than light, as Asta was already capable of doing so by chapter 55 and could go beyond the speed of captains like Sixgolion even before the time skip, as we could see from chapter 146. Now in Black Clover, increasing your magic means increasing your speed. So as the story goes on, these guys are getting faster and faster. Despite all of this, however, base Jester is quite strong. In a 1v1 clash with Yuno, whom at this point was an equal to Asta, it is stated he was pouring all of his magic into his attack. The two equaled each other out until Jester's barrier started to break. This is where he laughs it off like a crazy maniac and acknowledges Yuno as he starts to get serious. Keep in mind, Yuno at this point would scale stronger than Zagrid, whilst Licht and Lumiere also acknowledge his strength. However, according to the continuity and timeline, this same Yuno is not stronger than 55% Xenon, as his fight with him takes place only a short time afterwards. Xenon had wiped out the entire Diamond Kingdom and Golden Dawn with just his bone magic. Yuno instantly loses to Zenon and states his regeneration of bone magic is faster than the erosion his strongest spell can achieve, which means Yuno's power level maxes out at 40% Dark Disciple. Therefore, we can conclude that Jester is weaker than the Dark Triad, because if we compare feats, Yuno couldn't scratch Zenon and didn't make him serious, where he instantly gets no diff and almost dies, right? Whilst Jester with unlimited mana had his barrier cracked and was forced to transform. Keep in mind, the Dark Triad were meant to represent world-ending threats. They had the three kings of hell that would create the end of humanity. 90% of the population would be wiped out. So it makes sense that the power scaling went through the roof. Doing some inference and checking out the backstories of these wizard kings, we come to understand that none of them achieved a feat Zenon had done in chapter 227, killing all the shining generals and military in a single night. They all were in constant war with the Diamond Kingdom. For example, Jester wanted to create unity through conquering the other countries and having the role of the Wizard King to control the military might of Clover. But here comes Zenon, who one-shots and destroys the entire Diamond Kingdom in a single day, whilst the Wizard Kings had years to fend them off but never did. On the other hand, Jester's barrier magic created a huge weapon in the sky that unleashed an onslaught of lasers upon Yuno, which would have been enough to have laid waste to all of them. This is a feat on the level of Patri's Arrows of Judgment, which was a spell so powerful that Julius had to utilize all of his time magic to stop it and died due to being distracted. But ladies and gentlemen, this still wasn't Jester's peak. We believe his defense is higher than Edward or Julius by miles, because even after tanking a dimension slash from Yami that was buffed by both Forgelion and Nozel with full power, he wasn't split in half and actually survived a nuclear explosion from it too. Julius died to a light sword, Zagreus was split in half by just Yami's attack alone, and Edward Avalanche lost to Noel. So that means, in comparison, Jester's defense is way higher than you think, as he still tells them they haven't won, because then he survives the most OP move in anime ever, turning black and white. Yuno goes all out copying Asuka's whole flow. This leads to Jester recycling all of that power into his final form. Although we never got to see its capabilities, it kinda insinuates he may have beaten Yuno and the captains, because they had used up all their magical power at that point by putting everything into their final plan. Now, to enjoy more peak fiction, watch this video on your screen right now.